Sup, y'all? I am your host, Taylor Onion, and this is Hang Time, where we focus on amplifying the stories of women in sports. We are back this week with professional sailor Sara Stone, who is the first female navigator to win a TP52 World Championship. Sara, welcome. Let's get some hang time.
Thanks, Taylor, for having me. It's awesome to be here.
Absolutely. I'm super excited to have you on today. You are, I think, the second, technically third. We had two other athletes on, but I'm super excited to have you as a current professional athlete be joining us today. So I would love to start with the championship. If you could describe that feeling, maybe from the athlete standpoint and also from a historical context, what was that like?
Yeah, for sure. So this particular championship was in a type of boat called the TP52, and this fleet of boats races all around the world, mostly in Europe. And each year we have a world championship. This year it was in Cascais, Portugal, which is known to be a very windy and very wavy place to go race sailboats. So we were set up coming into it. We knew all season as we were working towards the championship that it was likely to be really windy. It was likely to be really wavy. So we needed to prep and practice as much as we could for that. And then we got to Cascais and we had 5 days of racing and it was all on. It's a super competitive fleet of boats to race in. And I mean, it came down to the last leg of the last race. And we just did exactly what we needed to do to cross the line and have the results shake out with us in first.
Now, I don't know a ton. I know a little bit about sailing because we had a team at a school that I used to work at. But tell me, as the navigator, I assume there are also other people on the boat, and then how many others are you racing against?
Yeah, so on those particular boats, and every type of sailboat for racing is a little bit different, but on those particular boats, we are sailing with 14 or 15 people, depending on whether the owner of the team is there. In this case, the owner was not there, so we had a fully pro team racing. And there's people doing all different positions, and it's super specialized. So you have your job, and you are responsible to do your job perfectly all the time. That's the expectation, and that's what you're pushing towards. So there's a lot of people all around, and it's this incredible choreography of how you're moving across the boat as you get the boat around the racetrack. And you got to trust your teammates around you, and they have to trust you and trust the information that you're giving. So in my job, I'm the navigator, which means that I'm responsible for sort of everything electronic on the boat, all of the systems and sensors that we're pulling data in real time as we go around the racetrack. So I have to make sure that they're all working and they're reading correctly. And I'm looking at that data as we race and picking out what pieces of information are important to the rest of the people on the team at all points. So and the information that I'm giving is the stuff that helps us make decisions that hopefully pan out so that we cross the line first. Okay. But it's all on. It's good.
Very tactical, very intricate, it sounds like.
Yes, for sure.
What was the feeling for you? Again, so first female navigator to win this type of championship. What does that mean to you?
Sailing's a funny sport because there's not very many women at all in the sport. Historically there haven't been, and still right now there are very few women racing at this highest level of the sport, especially women in afterguard positions. So part of the decision-making group, which I am part of as the navigator. So when you're racing, I mean, it's basically me and all guys the vast majority of the time. And when you are the first to do anything, part of it is really cool to have achieved that thing and been the first, but part of it is also really kind of frustrating that how am I the first person to do this? It would be so cool. And there's no reason in a sport like sailing where you can race co-ed, there's no reason why there can't be more women in more positions across all of the different boats. It's a little bit of both.
Yeah, I think there's certainly some similarities across all women's sports right now, too, and just sports in general, such a male-dominated space. what made you want to get involved in sailing to begin with? If we go back to the beginning of your sailing career, how did that start?
I had a little bit of a different way into the sport than a lot of people. I did not come up through college sailing or going down like an Olympic track. I actually was a rower through high school and college, and then I graduated from college and was working, not doing anything with sailing at all. But there was an all women's team racing around the world, a team called Team SCA, and they did the 2014-2015 Volvo Ocean Race. And that team of women was the first time that I saw a women's team competing at the highest level. And I was like, how is that even a thing? I want to be able to do that. I didn't know that sailing could be your job. I didn't know that that was like a legitimate way to spend your life other than sort of enjoying going sailing. So I saw those women racing and I decided, yeah, I'm going to learn how to race. I'm going to figure that out. And at the time, I'd never been offshore. I'd never sailed overnight. I hadn't really raced sailboats. I just thought, yeah, sure, I can learn. For sure, I can
Right.
learn.
Why not?
Yeah.
Why not? Did you find that some of the skills you had learned from being a high school and college rower, did some of those skills translate, or was it completely like an apples to oranges situation?
No, definitely. There's always skills that translate. And I think I'm a big believer in the idea that everything you've done in your life up until this point makes you better at whatever you're doing right now. Like all of those decisions, every task, every job, every relationship you've ever had, like you've learned something. And that helps you wherever you are. So I took lots from rowing. I mean, there's a huge amount of mental toughness in rowers, an ability to stay focused under pressure, to keep pushing. Sailing can be really physical, especially at that level, especially when it's really windy and really wavy, and the ability to sort of manage your effort over a full day of racing, over a full week of racing. That's a really important piece of it, to not allow your emotions to spike, just to stay steady, consistent, do your job. There's a lot of that I think I get from rowing, and then also from every job I've ever held. I mean, it all comes together.
Do you feel like sailing is obviously you've had a ton of success in the sport. Do you feel like sailing is a new love, or do you still kind of hold this space for rowing in your heart as well?
I definitely still have a space for rowing. I think I'm still too close to it to really want to go out and go rowing, because I know how fast I was, and I'm not training for that right now. So there's no way I'd be that fast. And I think but I'm still really fit for sailing. So I would be just close enough for it to be so frustrating.
Yeah.
But for sure, like the rowing machine in the gym, I'm all over it.
Oh yeah. I have several wherever I've moved throughout my life, everybody's like, "Oh great, you're moving here. You can be on our rec league volleyball team, on our YMCA volleyball team." I'm like, I I have no interest in potentially tearing, right, like an ACL,
Yeah.
popping an Achilles for rec league volleyball. And I love that, everybody's so excited, but I'm also like, I don't even think you would want me on your team. Like, I don't think I can help you having been this many years out of the game, right? But that there is something to be said for that, right? Like, you know what you used to be and how you used to perform, and now being in this space where you're fit for something else is
Yeah.
has to be some maybe not mental gymnastics, but certainly can see still feeling too close to it.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
for sure.
yep, absolutely. So tell me a little bit. We talked about some of the intricacies, but what does a training, like typical training period, look like for you as a navigator specifically?
So when I think about typical training periods, I basically think about the days leading up to a given racing week. So if we're limited in the number of days we're allowed to practice on our boat. So you show up before an event like the championships, and you have like 2 days to practice. And then you have 1 day of practice racing with all of the boats, all of the different teams. So you have a really limited amount of time on the platform. And what for me, my job is in that time, make sure everything is working, which sounds like such a funny thing to say, but we have so many electronics and so many different sensors, and they're all working in this wet marine environment. And it's unbelievable how often things stop working.
Mm,
I mean, and sometimes it's as simple as like just turn it off and turn it back on again and it'll work, which works actually an amazing percentage of the time. But sometimes it's like a little bit more complicated than that.
Sure. What would you say when you're preparing? What is the toughest part of preparing for a race? Well, I'll ask that first, and then I'll ask the other part of the question. So what's the toughest part of preparing for a race?
I think the toughest part is that the wind is always a little bit different all day, every day. It's different. The sea state is different. So when you're looking at your instruments and like our wind sensors and our sensors that are telling us how fast we're sailing the boat on different tacks, how much heel we have, how we have sensors for like everything. And they all have to be calibrated to a given moment in time. And you have to trust, like, okay, the wind is like our sensors are telling me that the wind is doing this one thing. Do I believe it? Do I think they're under reading or over reading, or the wind is not this fixed thing and it mixes down in different ways from altitude? And if it's cold air or hot air, or there's a front line coming, like there's all these different invisible physiological thing, or physiological is not the right word. I should
environmental
start over. Yeah. Yeah. All these different environmental factors that are affecting what you're reading and therefore the decisions that you're making. So you need to spend a lot of time getting in sync with the conditions of every given day. And that can be kind of a hard thing sometimes to put your finger on.
Absolutely. What do you think is the most, or from your perspective, what's the most like exhilarating thing about sailing?
I love the pressure. I love that you need to do your job perfectly. And there's so much coordination between you and other people on the team like that. It's really a sport where teamwork is so critical. And sometimes it's the difference of like somebody can't quite hear you because you're on a big boat and they're far away, or right at that moment another noise happens, and losing that piece of information changes how other people make their decisions. So you have to try to account for all of that all the time, and that pressure and the pressure to be correct in what you're saying.
Sure.
I like the pressure.
Okay, awesome. Do you have a favorite place that you have ever sailed?
Yeah, I love the British Virgin Islands.
Okay.
It is.
For any specific reason, or what makes that the favorite?
It is, well, it's beautiful and it's lovely and warm, and sunny, which is a very nice feature.
Sure.
But it is there, it's right where the trade winds are. So there's always good breeze. The way that the wind moves around the world, it's like a really unique location. And it's a cool collection of islands where they're really protected by a big barrier reef, basically, barrier island. So you get pretty flat water, even though you're kind of exposed to the ocean. So you get awesome breeze that's built up over the whole Atlantic, but flat water, or relatively flat water.
Sure.
So it's a pretty good spot.
Are most of the climates colder, or and that's kind of an anomaly where it's warmer and typically beautiful weather, or what does that look like?
Now, most of the climates are warm or like really hot.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. What would be your dream race to take part in?
Oh, there's so many races. Right now, I think my dream race would probably be a race that doesn't really exist, actually. So that the original reason why I got into the sport was seeing those women racing in the Volvo Ocean Race, which was a team race around the world on a particular type of boat. And that doesn't exist anymore. But that race, it was so cool. To me, that is like, if that existed tomorrow, I would drop everything and be fully focused on going and doing that race again. Okay. Yeah. But it's an interesting sport because like the races that exist and the competitions, they're changing kind of all the time. And even like which components of the sport are included in the Olympics, like those classes are changing. And so it's what you set your goals to be at one moment. You have to have flexibility in that, because that competition might not exist 3, 4, 5 years from now.
Yeah, in an interview that I was reading about you, or maybe a bio, something described you as kind of a Jack or Jane of all trades when it comes to sailing. That you like to be trained in several different, like you'll do whatever is needed essentially of the team at the time. Do you still feel like that's how you're kind of approaching things, or do you look to settle into like I know I want to be a navigator and that's what I want to do, or I'm going to be on this part of the boat and that's what I want to do?
I really appreciate being able to do multiple different roles at the highest level. I think you learn a lot from doing different positions. You learn what the other positions need, how you can back them up. And then when you go step into that position, you know what the other positions require. And I think part of why I was able to become a navigator kind of quickly, I was previously racing on the same team, but in a different position on the boat. And this was my first season navigating for them. But I think part of the reason why I could step into that was because I really understood the other roles around me and what they were looking for, what they needed, how I could best support them. So yeah, I it's awesome to have the chance to be able to do everything. You're a better athlete and a better sailor.
I was gonna say I have to imagine that makes you kind of a better, whether it is to be the navigator, you're a better navigator because you know how other aspects of the boat work as well. You mentioned a pathway to the Olympics. We know that LA 28. I assume this is it's a summer given the weather and the task and all of those things. So I would assume LA 28 is the next opportunity to compete there. And actually, I'm going to give a quick shout out to Allison Jolly, who is the head coach at the school I previously was at. I believe she's an Olympic
no way.
gold medalist. Yeah, so she was at South Florida and was an Olympic gold medal sailor. I should know the year, but I don't know it off the top of my head.
I don't know the year.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go look it up now afterwards. But so tell me, pathway to the Olympics, what does that look like? Are there qualifiers? What's the process to get to LA in 2028?
Yeah, so there are qualifiers. Because it's a home Olympics, then you're guaranteed a spot in all the classes. So that's a kind of a unique feature of it. Right now, I'm not on that Olympic track. I'm competing full time on other teams. I was previously sailing a boat called a NACRA 17, which is an Olympic class boat. And I kind of started going down that road, but life took me in other directions. But
Sure.
I mean, it's cool. It's all the boats in the Olympics are one person or two person. And most of the racing that I'm doing now is on bigger teams. The smallest team being like 5 people.
Oh, wow. Okay. So a big difference from the 14 to 15 that you're sailing with now.
Yeah, for sure. And on much bigger boats, much higher loads, a really different operation.
The ones that you're on now.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense. If there's more people, the boat has to be bigger.
Not necessarily. You can race solo and double-handed on really big boats.
Interesting.
It's just sort of how you set them up.
Okay. Very good. Do you what do you feel like are some of the biggest misconceptions when it comes to sailing?
Yeah, that's a classic. There's a great entertaining TV show called Below Deck, which you may or may not have heard of.
I have heard of that, yes. I don't know that I've seen a full episode, but I have heard of it.
Yeah, that is a common misconception that the kind of racing that I'm doing is more of that yachting thing where you have guests coming on the boat and you're catering to the guests. That is very much not what I'm doing. But that is a common misconception for sure.
Okay. Very interesting. Yeah. I wouldn't think that people would confuse the sport of sailing with a show like Below Deck, but I guess there are stranger things.
Yeah, I think it's that like big boats are often called yachts, and then you just kind of connect the dots in your mind, and if you don't really have any context for what racing sailboats looks like, then yeah.
That's fair. That's fair. What is the state, from your perspective, what is the state of women's participation in the sport of sailing right now? Are you seeing more women start to want to participate? What is kind of the pipeline from maybe the youth level all the way up to professional?
The pipeline is growing, and certainly there are more women competing at higher levels than there were 10, 15, 20 years ago, but there are very few. So it's part of it is that it's hard to get the opportunities, and there's a lot of different reasons for that. And there's more and more research on how especially like girls stay in sports or don't, and why. And then once you kind of transition past the college age, you have to, it's a really particular lifestyle that you would be choosing to pursue. And it's one thing to go down an Olympic track, which is sort of, you say the Olympics and everybody kind of knows what that means. And there's a level of appreciation, I think, for Olympic athletes or people who are pushing towards the Olympics. And then once you get into pro sailing, you're choosing a lifestyle, and you're choosing this. You got, not only do you have to be good at your job, but you also have to be well able to interact with the different people all around. You're traveling all the time, so you need to manage your energy over a whole year. Like, it's not really an off season, on season kind of a situation. It's freelance work, so you need to be able to manage your costs and your expenses and make that work. You got to be able to, people have to like you, you got to be a fun person, a good teammate, good at what you're doing, but all of those other things. And you got to be in the right place at the right time to get some good opportunities as well.
There has been kind of I hesitate to call it a boom, because I feel like that insinuates that it's going to go back down or level off or whatever. But with women's sports, we've seen so much growth in the last few years. There are a ton of initiatives out there, including what you just said, right? Where it's some of the statistics that we know of girls and boys in sport, keeping girls in sport for longer because they drop out at the rate of 2 times compared to boys. Are there initiatives that are specific to sailing for girls and for women that kind of provide maybe not an advantage, but that would like incentivize you to want to choose that very specific lifestyle that you just described?
There are some. There's one team actually that I'm a member of. It's called Upwind by Mare Concept, and it is an all-female trimaran team. So there are very few women racing monohulls, which are sort of the more traditional looking sailboats. And there are even fewer women racing trimarans, which have 3 hulls. They're big, powerful boats, and you can race them all around the world. They can go offshore. You can race Grand Prix racing, like around a race course where you just go out for a couple of hours and then come back into shore. But this particular team was put together with the intent of creating more opportunities for women in multi-hull racing. So if it's one of those, like a little bit of a trap, right? Where if you want a position on a team, you need to already have experience. But how do you get the experience in the first place so that you become somebody who a team would hire when they're trying to win? And this program set out to do just that.
What do you hope? I'm going to continue on this track before I kind of weave us into our wrap up here. What do you hope that your career specifically demonstrates for young girls who are either currently in sailing or who maybe are interested in it to pursue, again, whether it's long term or whether it's just up through high school or through college?
I hope that for anybody, they see that there are these opportunities out there that they are not even aware of at that moment in time. And that if you have this thing that you're passionate about, whether it's sailing or otherwise, you can figure out a way to change your life and move down that path. Like, I left my previous career in 2018, so it hasn't been that long, and now I'm racing at this level. So, and I went from really 0 to 100. So there's amazing opportunities out there, and if it's something that you want to do and something you can put your mind to, for sure there's potential there.
I love that. And it's timely for when we're recording right now too. This will be we'll be officially in 2026 when the episode drops. But Lindsey Vohn's victory at 41 years old, I think, is perfect evidence of what you just described. Right? There's no age limits. There's no kind of too late. There's always time to if you're committed to it, you're passionate about it, go for it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you have nothing to lose. At least then you tried and you gave it like really a good shot, and you can move on from there, whatever happens.
I love it. Okay. Wrap up question. If you could get some hang time with any woman in sports, who would it be and why?
Oh, okay. Good question. I think right now, I mean, I don't know if this really counts as women in sports, but it would probably be Kylie Kelsey. I mean,
Okay.
she's sports adjacent. She does some interviews with women in sports, but I appreciate her tone and the way she talks about things. So
Yeah.
yeah, she's somebody I'd like to sit down and chat with for sure.
I would include her as a woman in sports, given her background. And
Yeah,
I think she
exactly.
still coaches.
Yeah,
She
she
still
does.
coaches too, but yeah, she's established herself as sport adjacent as well. I love
Yeah,
that.
strongly sport adjacent.
Yes, 100%. 100%. All right, where can listeners get involved? Where can they follow you or support the team even? What does that look like?
Yeah, for sure. The best way to follow me is on Instagram at SarahB_Stone. Otherwise, you can find information about all the different teams on their respective Instagram pages or Facebook, depending on your age bracket, and on their websites. And if you just Google like TP52 Racing, these video clips of these boats racing will come right up, and it's pretty awesome.
Awesome. Well, Sarah, thank you so much for taking the time out of your schedule today to join us and inform me, educate me more on sailing. This has been great.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. All right, listeners, we will be back in a couple of weeks. In the meantime, you can follow us at HangTimeP0D, wherever you get your social media, including YouTube now. Until then, we'll see you next time.